Hiya folks, Ricky Tang here. Hope all is well with you. Now this video is about my journey trying to find a nice silencer for my BMW R1250R, which you see here, currently wearing the OEM, the original exhaust, otherwise known as the chrome cannon. Some of you may notice that my silencer changed a couple of times over the last 6 months, but I hadn't made a video about it. And that's because testing wasn't complete. Winter got in the way, and I needed to be sure that my choice of exhaust and DB killer had not affected performance, but make the bike quiet enough to live with. So now I've got the information I need, I'm ready to make a video. Now, first of all, before we get into it, I want to state for the record that I do not claim to be an authority in motorcycle tuning, performance tuning, or aftermarket upgrades for your motorbike. I'm just a guy in a shed trying to make changes to his bike and upgrade it on the cheap, and generally failing, and usually at great expense to myself. So with that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So there was two main reasons why I wanted to change the original chrome cannon: looks and sound. Basically, the bike is too quiet to really hear while riding, especially at higher speeds. All you just get is wind noise and maybe a little bit of airbox, but you can't really hear the exhaust. Secondly, it's just too big and heavy looking as well, and I wanted rid of it. Now, the official upgrade for this exhaust comes from Akrapovic, but it's basically an OEM replacement. It is louder, and I have ridden a bike with that fitted and I quite like it, but it's about £1,000 for the end can, just the silencer bit, and it's as big as this. It's huge, and it seems for me to go against the grain of what Akrapovic exhausts are known for. It's just big and bulky looking, and I don't actually like the look of it. So I was looking for a lower cost, much lower cost alternative. And I eventually discovered that people have been fitting silencers from the R1200 range, aftermarket ones, onto their 1250s and apparently getting good results. So that got me thinking, and eventually I found a very nice looking exhaust from Leo Vinci. It's called a Factory Carbon S, I believe. I bought a second-hand one of those, about £350. And here it is. Well, this is not really it. This is not the original exhaust I bought, because I ended up selling that one, and I'm going to explain why now. When I first fitted that Leo Vinci exhaust, I loved the sound it made. It sounded great. It wasn't too loud in my opinion. It looked small, looked neat on the bike, and again, I like the sound. But it wasn't until I took the bike on a track day I started to have a suspicion that maybe the bike wasn't performing as well as it should be. Now, I've made a playlist of several videos surrounding the original Leo Vinci exhaust, but ultimately what happened was this little disc, which was in between the link pipe and the silencer, about there, actually probably about there, where this kind of goes into a little shoulder. This disc, which I actually originally thought was kind of welded in or integral to the exhaust system, believe it or not, this disc with those little holes, it didn't occur to me that they might be affecting performance. Turns out that it was, but when I took the disc out, the exhaust suddenly became far too loud on the road. I tried this. Well, this came with the exhaust, DB killer from Leo Vinci. The bike was still too loud with that in, and especially now that was removed. Yeah, not great, bit loud that. So I tried all I could to make this silencer quieter. Oh, where are they? There's a bunch in there. But what I found through my performance testing was that every time I tried to make the bike quiet enough to live with, I was also somehow choking the bike or not letting it perform at full power. So I couldn't find a solution for that, and I sold the Leo Vinci. But then I started looking around eventually for a replacement silencer designed for the R1250 and not the 1200 to see if that would make a good difference. Didn't have £1,000 for a Krapovich or £700 for a Remus, that sort of thing. I had under 400, so my choices were limited. I ended up with one of these. This being an SP Engineering Diabolus, I think it was Diabolus. That fitted on the bike nicely, looked pretty good, bit on the long side, but was still pretty good. But there were problems with that as well. It came with a DB killer, and the bike was reasonably quiet with the DB killer fitted. But again, with that DB killer that came with the bike, I found that it slowed the bike down. It affected performance. The bike wasn't running properly. Now, throughout all this, I have to admit and I have to explain that I have not remapped the bike. I've not had an ECU flash. This is all just testing by myself in my shed with these exhausts. So yeah, a reflash may well help. But the way I saw it was that the DB killers that I was fitting to try and make the bike quieter was actually choking the bike, you know, stifling performance, reducing gas flow. And I didn't think in my mind that any sort of ECU flashing was going to help. The only way to make the exhaust work properly was let them be loud. And but they were too loud for me for the road. In an attempt to make the SP Engineering exhaust quiet enough to live with, but not affect performance, I discovered and bought one of these DB killers that got a kind of a honeycomb center. Now, I found that that appeared to make the bike quiet enough to live with, but didn't affect performance. I had full speed, full power as far as I could tell out of the bike, and I was well chuffed. So eventually what I did was get one of these honeycomb DB killers and have it welded to a ring that I could then use and screw into the end of the DB killer, you know, like a normal one. Actually, it's meant to live in the link pipe at the bottom, not at the end, but I didn't realize that at the time. Only one problem. I grew to dislike the sound it made. It's quite tinny and raspy. And I saw a video of my bike going down the main straight at Donington. Someone from the pit wall was recording me, and I really didn't like the sound it made. It is quite a nasty noise. So that put me off the silencer. Eventually I thought, no, this is not going to work for me. I'll go back to the OEM exhaust again. And then finally, late last year, as my 50th birthday approached, I had the thought that maybe if I can get this honeycomb DB killer into the Leo Vinci exhaust somehow, perhaps it will make the bike quiet enough, but I'll still get full performance and I'll get the looks, and it'll be a win-win-win. So I bought myself the Leo Vinci, which I'll put back on the table now. So these generally are on sale for about £450, which I wasn't going to buy at that price. Remember, the first one was second hand, but eventually it came up on offer for £360, I think it was. And yeah, I gave in at that point. When I got this exhaust, it actually came with this. So I think it was actually this way in the link pipe. It made me realize that the disc that came with the original Leo Vinci exhaust wasn't something that somebody knocked up and put in there to try and make their bike quieter. I think, well, I'm fairly satisfied that this actually was designed by Leo Vinci themselves. But I found that this combination, go out of the way, of baffle and DB killer still made the bike too loud. So I swapped this for this when I did some performance testing, and this is where winter got in the way. But a couple of weeks ago, I went for a ride with this, with and without that, and I found that this affected performance. It was cutting the speed down again, or cutting the power output again. I wasn't getting the acceleration like I should be getting on my bike. And so, after multiple disappointments, basically buying cheap and buying 3 times, I have spent basically over £1,000 on those 3 silencers, although the original Leo Vinci I sold and made some money back. So I am an idiot, I know I am, but I'm back on the chrome Canon exhaust, and I did another performance test with that exhaust, and yeah, compared to the Leo Vinci, I've got the power back. It's a surprise how much power this was sapping out of the bike. I've got a theory about the exhaust with this bike. Obviously the chrome cannon is big. The OEM Akrapovic replacement is big. The Remus Black Hawk, I think, is big. Leo Vinci has a new silencer for this model. It's big. There's a couple of more exhausts for this bike which are large, and I think what it is to get kind of a legal level of silencing out of the exhaust itself has to be a large volume. Basically, we're talking about a 1.25 litre engine, so it needs quite a bit of silencing. You might think that the cat in the link pipe actually does quite a bit of a job of silencing the bike. No, it doesn't. The bike is ridiculously loud without a silencer.
Ready? I just can't.
So the silencer's got a lot of work to do, and I think the size of this sort of thing isn't going to cut it. And if you try and make the silencer quiet, then it restricts airflow. The air can't get out of the exhaust fast enough, and that's when the bike slows down. That's all I've got. So yeah, the OEM exhaust is back on. I can't see me changing it unless I come into a windfall and get loads of money, and then I'll probably swallow my pride and get the Akrapovic exhaust, the OEM one, because at the end of the day we know it works. Well, there is another thing I could do, potentially as suggested by Carl from Just The Way It Is, great channel by the way guys. I could drill out the rivets of this exhaust, maybe take out the stock exhaust wadding and replace it with some other exhaust wadding that might make the bike quieter. I don't have the appetite to do it, really. I've had so many disappointments here. I think the easiest thing to do is wait to get a proper exhaust, a large volume silencer for that bike like the Akrapovic or the Remus or that new Leo Vinci one or newer one, and get one of those bunged on the bike when I can afford it. But there's another way of going potentially. I want to be able to hear the bike more when I'm riding. I don't need to make other people hear me more when I'm riding. So perhaps what I can do is get a different air filter and get more induction noise, you know, at the fuel tank area where I am. And I think if I can hear the bike roar more, I might be happy enough not to need a different exhaust, apart from the looks. So that's about it, folks. That's you up to date. If you want to make any comments about all the money I've wasted and all the mistakes I've made, just let me know down below. If you like my content following the R1250R, or can you see it, Kawasaki Versys X300, or even the Honda Bros when I get it back MOT'd again and get it back on the road, or maybe even this summer, the Mini Moto. I've not used that basically in over a year, and I really should pull my finger out and get back out on the road on the karting track with it. Until the next time, folks, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you in another one soon. Ta-da.